Hi, this is Snake Previews with Kevin Dean and Liz Barksdale. This is our podcast where we talk about and make fun of bad snake movies. And when we run out of snake movies, we will move on to some other bad movie genre that also probably involves animals.
Yeah, there's apparently a lot of those out there, but we might be somewhat limited in our snake movie. Um, what would you call it?
Oeuvre.
Oeuvre, yes.
So we've actually watched quite a few of these by now, but for one reason or another, apathy, being chicken shit, this is the first time we've actually tried to record something, and that was on the heels of a movie called Jennifer, starring Lisa Pelican and as the title character and Jeff Corey as her dad. And this movie was actually far less snaky than the three or four that we watched prior to this.
Yeah, it was very heavily Carrie influenced. We just looked up Carrie came out in 1976, Jennifer came out in 1978, so they were ripping it off a good deal, and it wasn't horrible for a B movie. I don't know, what do you think?
It was definitely a B movie, and as far as it being a Carrie ripoff, which it very much was, I have to like sort of grudgingly give them props to more or less like openly acknowledging that they're ripping off Carrie. They made like an unflattering reference to John Travolta like right in the
They
movie.
made several like more subtle references to, yeah, they were saying like, oh, spoiler alert, we'll probably be spoiling this movie,
Yeah, in
so
every
yeah.
movie that we talk about.
Yeah, yeah, like we'll get into more with this later, but the main antagonist is like this rich bitch character named Sandra, and she's one of the main characters, and she's like very full of herself, and she says that like John Travolta's a bad lay or something. She's kind of bragging. I don't know if it was meant to be taken as the truth, but I was like, whoa.
Yeah, they certainly didn't go anywhere with that. Like she was talking to one of her flunkies, Jane, and Jane said something like, "Ooh, John Travolta," and Sandra says, "He's not that good looking," or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, he's not all he's cracked up to be, because she'd been hanging out in Hollywood. Anyway, I guess that's a good seg into. It was sort of strange. This movie it was filmed in L.A., but it never was very clear where it was set. And the main character and her dad were obviously from West Virginia. They mentioned it. They were very hick characters, and they'd had to move away from their hometown and from West Virginia to wherever the hell this movie was set.
Yes, we have narrowed down where it was set to 49 possible states.
Yeah, everywhere except West Virginia. But it's a very like posh private girls' school. I think it's a high school, but it's like a boarding school. It's very like the girls live there except Jennifer, who's a scholarship student, and they're like sororitudes basically. Only they were like high school kids.
I like how you said seg, because segue, like you say that so much that you need like a more posh word for
Oh
segue.
yeah, only recently I like saying seg. I will
Yes.
seg to my next topic. It's not as bad as dovetail. Like this dovetails off this.
Oh,
This
I like
dovetails.
dovetail.
So okay,
I like seg too. I mean, it's
okay, you can have dovetail
okay.
for the Snake podcast.
Right. Um, yeah, I think it's high school because I think at one point they mentioned going off to college later.
Yeah,
Uh, and
but it's like one of those high schools where like kids can get away with anything, and like they all have their own cars, and they're very rich.
yeah, and uh, so the Carrie in this movie is Jennifer is to Jennifer as Carrie is to
Good
Carrie.
analogy.
Um, and her dad runs a pet store, and I sort of feel like the some of the writers wanted to make the dad just an evil bastard like Carrie's mom was. And then there was a contingent of writers who was like, no, let's make him a sympathetic character because he really played both sides of the good guy bad guy fence in a way that made like no sense at all. And he looked like a poor man Sam Elliott. So if you want like a poor man Sam Elliott, that's another reason to watch this movie.
Yeah, it was a strange character. Her dad's his name was Luke, but he was basically just dad, the parent
Or
figure,
Papa.
or Papa. Yeah, he was Papa, and he was like not terrible to her. He did like threaten to beat her with a belt at one point.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I
that was
forgot
kind of.
about
There's
that.
all this effed up stuff in this movie. Like I guess like trigger warning. Like there's a lot of like crap that comes out that's kind of disturbing for like a B movie. But I guess they put that kind of stuff in there sometimes. But anyway, her dad was yeah, like the Wikipedia page says that he's quote unquote mentally disabled or something. Like, and he was like depressed or something, but and he was always waiting around for her to make dinner and like reading his Bible and listening to Christian radio and didn't seem to have much of a life of his own. And the pet shop looked like it was kind of in a rundown gas station or something. It wasn't much of a pet shop. It was no PetSmart
Yeah,
or
they seem to also offer, if I'm, judging correctly from signs on the wall, fumigation
oh yeah,
services.
those were the best parts of the movie. There's this poster that says, "Please fumigate your own home" or
Yeah,
something.
yeah, and like, uh, at one point you could see like the writing on the windows backwards, and I'm pretty sure one said beef. So I don't know
I don't know
if
what they were doing exactly
yeah,
at this pet
it was a
store.
very sprawling kind of rundown sort of pet store. So that was the backdrop. She takes the bus every day from her pet store home. They seem to live
Yeah, they
in
live in the pet store in the
yeah,
back.
and the opening sequence let us know she takes the bus to school, where she's in spite of being just as beautiful as any 70s actress, is ostracized by the popular girls and has a very thick West Virginia accent that she usually like forgets to maintain as an actress.
Yeah, she did an okay job maintaining it, I thought. But yeah, it wasn't totally consistent. And she was definitely the prettiest girl in this movie, I thought.
Yeah, I thought so
She
too.
had like she was supposed to be hick and she had like curly kind of sort of frizzy hair and like everybody else had that straight 70s hair. And I don't know if that was a thing. That was a little bit before my time, but I don't know if that was supposed to be like she was gorgeous. Lisa Pelican's a gorgeous lady, but yeah, nobody liked her and I guess that brings us to Sandra.
Yeah, the the filmmakers like waste no time in establishing. There's no subtlety about Sandra and her henchwomen. She really right away like telegraphs how evil she is and how she's out to get Sandra for being different and poor.
Got to get Jennifer.
Tries to frame her for cheating on a test. At this point, we meet a couple of important ancillary characters. One being an administrator
Miss
who is
Callie, I
Miss
think.
Kelly, who is Sandra like 40 years on.
Yeah, she's like so evil. I work in higher ed, and like I was kind of getting the feels from some of this because like it's a private school, and she's just like the most corrupt administrator ever.
Yeah, she. There are several times in the movie when Miss Cowley is challenged for being evil, and every single time that happens, she gets that glassy-eyed evil smile and threatens with dismissal whoever it is who is challenging her evil.
And she's also drinking booze out of like this crystal flask and taking prescription pills throughout the whole movie. Like whenever she gets challenged or has an administrative disciplinary.
Yeah,
She
there's
does that in front of the students too. This is one of the
yes.
many fucked up things about this.
Yeah, and like there's this great scene where we are introduced to her where she's talking to a teacher.
Who's like a good guy teacher.
Yeah, and um I don't even remember what the segue was, even though it was barely there. But this good guy teacher was talking about some
like like the problem student. It was a good guy lady teacher, like an older lady teacher, and she was like, these rich girls, Sandra and her friends will not shut up in my 2 p.m. class. And Miss Callie was like defending them, saying like, oh, they're high class girls.
Yeah, but like then the good guy, and this is why we should have been doing a podcast for years because we can use terms like good guy, lady, teacher,
Yes, yes.
and masters of the English language are we. Um, but
She was
then
an upstanding teacher. She was a classy educator.
I'm gonna stick with good guy, lady.
Okay,
teacher.
yeah, she was that to you.
And then she starts to talk about some sort of social for the
Like
teachers.
a faculty tea. She's like, should I wear my pink dress to the faculty tea?
Yeah, and Miss Kelly's like, oh, you always look lovely to that. And then like
Go straight back to being evil, like
yeah,
immediately.
and then immediately is like, we can get rid of you.
It's so weird. It's like I don't know if they're trying to establish these two are kind of frenemies. Like, yeah, no, and Miss Kelly is like always like threatening to fire her teaching staff like right on the spot, and that happens to another teacher later. And what's the actor's name?
Bert Convy. So that was that for me, being someone who is just a couple weeks away from 40. A joy and a surprise for this was Bert Convy was in the movie. So if you grew up in the 70s and 80s and remember Super Password or Win, Lose, or Draw, the host of those shows is in this movie as the good guy teacher.
Oh, he hosted Win, Lose, or Draw? Oh,
yeah.
That is so weird. I do remember that one. I'm about to be 34, so you got a little, like, time disparity. But yeah, he was another central character. He was the main teacher character.
Yeah, and he was a good guy as well.
But kind of creepy and, like, sexual. It was an all-girls school, I think, as we said before.
Yeah, and like definitely that 70s creep vibe. He never does anything out and out terrible. And the movie like makes it clear that his heart is in the right place. I'm jumping around a bit.
He's also a good guy teacher. He's a good guy male teacher with a penis and like a kind of skeezy teacher with a heart of gold. Good guy teacher.
Yes.
Yeah.
and just to be clear, the teacher we were talking about before, was a good guy lady teacher with a vagina.
Yeah, and she wasn't a major character. She was sort of like an establishing.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I'm jumping around a little bit here, but probably the best scene with Bert Convy comes like pretty late in the movie. He is constantly defending Jennifer and defending her to the evil Miss Cowley. And so he does this 2 or 3 times, and then the last time he does so, she gets that glassy smile and says, you can be replaced. And he's like, okay.
Do it.
Yeah.
Fire me.
She's like, okay. And that's it. He's fired.
Oh, yeah, and the other thing is, like, he's a graduate student, and she's always like, oh, we're being really nice to you, letting you teach high school while you get your graduate degree. And again, maybe that's just, like, close to my heart because I'm in higher ed, but that's just, like, even in this day and age, like a total administrator thing to say, like evil administrator.
Yeah.
Who's like a kind of like an adjunct as a high school teacher was what I thought of him as. But so I'm getting onto like my higher ed soapbox. But anyway, other main characters like the main bad girl, Sandra, has like this host of flunkies, and I don't remember most of their names, but Jane was the main flunky who like became a bit more fleshed out.
Yeah. Jane was actually a fairly nuanced character for this movie.
For this movie, yeah. And she was the fat one, and her name was Jane. And Jane, my friend, might be one of the 5 people who listen to this. So shout out to Jane. There's a fat Jane in this movie.
Yeah. So she's more. She's basically sort of cowed in no pun intended cowed into being Sandra's friend.
Also, she's not that fat. She's like 70s
well, of course.
Fat.
Yeah. And actually, even like today, this would be like, whoa, this is the fat woman that I don't think Hollywood has changed much in that regard.
No, that's sadly
Melissa
true.
McCarthy notwithstanding. So by being 15 pounds overweight, she was then and still would be now like the fat person in this movie.
Yeah.
But her her nuanced character and her not just strictly a flunky ways are revealed when in the swimming pool, and a lot of this movie takes place in the class pool. Uh, Sandra tries to drown.
Yeah, no, like Sandra goes straight up evil. Like this kid is like a sociopath in like the we need to talk about Kevin category.
Yes. And so Jane sees this happening, and uh, she tried to drown her by pushing her head underwater
Well, like
with one
holding her other
hand.
hand. I don't think that would actually work.
Yeah,
Or like,
it seemed like you would be able to fight through that.
yeah.
Especially since I think Jennifer was a little bit bigger than.
And she was going out for the swim team. She was like a good swimmer, and like
Oh yeah,
this random asshole just tries to drown her, and she's like, I'm drowning you.
Yeah, this sort of just occurred to me, and I remember having a similar complaint about Carrie 2, which is a terrible movie.
Oh,
But
you don't like Carrie?
Carrie 2.
Oh, Carrie 2, okay.
Like when Sandra tried to drown Jennifer, there were a lot of girls like goofing off in the pool.
Oh yeah, that was like
good thing none of them noticed.
I know. I think that was. I thought that was her cover. Like Sandra, like pushes all the girls in the pool and's like, "Let's frolic!" La da 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 da. Oh, no one will notice me drowning our classmate here. That's what I thought about that scene.
Okay. Well, thankfully Jane does notice
Yeah,
and stops
thankfully.
her and makes a frenemy out of.
Oh
It
yeah.
probably would have made life simpler for Sandra if she would have just made a flat out enemy out of Jane at that point, but she doesn't. She continues to string her along.
Yeah, I know, but she makes this threat. May I say it?
Oh, yeah.
She's like, Jane, you better shape up. She doesn't say that directly.
Because I need a man.
No, there's Grease references in this movie too.
Yeah.
That's what we have in our brain. But no, she's like, Jane, you better do what I say, or I'm gonna push you out into the cold, pissy sea.
Yeah.
And it's like so eloquent for this character. Like
she says it. She says it twice.
Yeah,
it's like her saying the cold, pissy sea.
Like everything out of her sphere of influence. Oh, I guess like another quick background thing about both Jane and Sandra is that they're like rich, but they have terrible parents. Like Sandra's parent is like a senator, and I don't know what he's like, some hot guy from the 70s, I guess. Like his name's John Gavin, and I just know this because someone on the IMDb page started a conversation that said in all caps, John Gavin is an asset to this movie. And he's only in it for about 5 minutes. He was like a nice piece of eye candy, I guess. But they credit him in the opening credits as Senator Tremaine.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like it's Sandra Tremaine, like, so she's like Johnny Tremaine, only evil. But yeah, he's like he just comes and pays off Miss Callie, the evil administrator, and threatens his daughter to like send her back to her mother, who is also an evil parent. And Jane's mom is also like righteously evil, and that gets like the darkest part of the movie, I think. I don't know. Do you want to talk about that yet, or
no? But go. What did you think was most evil? What are you saying?
well, like when Sandra is going over the edge, she like there's all these good-looking guys and girls that hang out in this clique, and Jane has a crush on the good-looking popular guy named Dayton, I think.
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
And
that was unquestionably
that was the darkest
movie.
part. And like Jane has gotten on Sandra's bad side, Sandra being the bitchy main antagonist, and Sandra is like, Dayton, you need to rape Jane for me, okay? She doesn't say it in so many words, but yeah. And then Dayton freaking rapes Jane in an elevator, and it's awful.
Yeah, and like besides being awful, like before that scene, before they get in the elevator, Dayton says to Jane, I want you to start doing what Sandra tells you.
Yeah, and it's like
and Jane immediately says, okay, sure.
Yeah.
So if I'm Dayton, I'm thinking, all right, rape not necessary. She's agreed.
I know, yeah, it's just awful. So he just does it like because he's an asshole. Like, and I don't understand how Sandra has like his mind control over everyone too. It's like everybody's just doing her bidding. But anyway, like the most heartbreaking part of the movie, other than like that there's a cute animal death in this movie too, and that really pisses me off. But anyway, the most
This
heartbreaking.
really throws you in the cold, pissy sea.
Yeah, it's like you have to live in Sanders' cold, pissy sea if you're living in
I
this
almost
movie.
want to name this podcast the Cold Pissy Sea.
Maybe we should.
Out of homage.
Yeah.
And I think I botched the name anyway. We're going to go with Rattlesneak Previews.
Rattlesneak. I like cold, pissy sea is pretty awesome. Okay. So yeah, let us know if anyone listens to this. Vote.
When we post this, we'll put up a vote whether it should be Cold Pissy Sea or Rattlesneak Previews, and I'm sure whatever the fight, whichever way it goes, it's going to be like 2-1.
I hope someone. I hope if you're still listening, bless your heart.
Yeah, I think we can count on my sister. That's about all I can guarantee.
I have a sister too, but she's busy. Like, no, not. I know your sister's busy too. Your sister loves you more. No, I'm so sorry about the tangent. Okay, so after Jane's best friend gets the guy she has a crush on to rape her and beat her up, he kind of assaults her too, and like her clothes are ripped. It's awful. And then she goes and calls her mom on a payphone, and her mom, she's like, I took so long to get a hold of you, like I couldn't get you. And her mom's like, it's 9:00 in the morning here. Like, how dare you bother me with like this petty thing about you getting raped, and then tries to give her a phone number, and she's like, I don't have a pencil, I'm in a payphone. And like her mom's like, I'm sorry, sweetie, but fuck off.
Yeah,
it's awful. It's fucking awful.
It was awful. I liked one thing I noticed was Jane, and this is actually sadly probably pretty realistic, but Jane did not explicitly say on the phone that she had been raped. And I just wanted to reach through the screen, grab the phone from her, and say, "Your daughter's been raped."
I know, me too. Yeah, so I think the movie was trying to say something about parents. It wasn't a good enough movie to, I think Carrie did that a lot better, like miles better, I'm sure. Yeah. But yeah, I guess Jennifer was a prodigy in more ways than one. She was very smart, that's how she got into the school, but she also had a gift of snake charming. Yeah.
She can pretty clearly, we didn't really learn this till the end of the movie, but she doesn't even need, it's not just that she can charm snakes that happen to be around. She can actually summon them out of thin air.
Yeah.
But we don't know that until close to the end, and other things happen to her too, her and Jane, to sort of
push them
establishing
to the edge.
Evil shots.
Yeah.
Sort of the main one. Oh, and I wrote this down, and I know we're not really going chronologically anyway, but one of the first things that Sandra says to her cronies is they're talking behind Jennifer's back, and they're like, "Yeah, she's from West Virginia. West Virginia? Who ever heard of that?"
No, that reminds me of the most awesome quote ever. That's a different Snake movie for a different time.
I know exactly what you're talking about. We will get to that.
Maybe we should call this podcast. I don't like the sound of that.
Okay, so that kind of works on a couple levels. Yeah.
No. So I'm sorry. I got. No, you were writing stuff down, and and very near the beginning of the movie, Sandra goes to Jennifer and says my goal is to get you removed from this school. Basically, but that's basically what she says. Let's spell it out.
Very little subtlety.
Yeah. But to go back to the relationship between Jennifer and her dad, it's weird. And her dad kind of has a one-track mind. He wants her to be a snake charmer as she was when she was a smaller girl. She's maybe a high school junior, senior in this. She's a high school kid. But when she was maybe 7 or 8, there's a flashback finally.
Yeah.
And he keeps talking about you were so awesome at doing your thing in the church. And he's pretty vague about it. For most of the movie, would you say?
Yeah, until he does. first of all, if like you see like the poster for this movie or the trailer, you know it's coming, so it's not like that big of a
Oh
surprise.
yeah, it's got
But
like
he does sort of hint at it at first because he's talking about the serpents of the Bible and serpent.
yeah, he's saying all these Bible-y things about
Yeah, and
snakes.
then like, and he keeps saying, "I want you to reclaim your power." And so the two
Yeah,
weird,
yeah,
funny
yeah.
things about that is when he does get blatant, it's because he reaches into some unseen box and like pulls out two snakes and lifts them up high.
I know, and like in my mind, there was like a strong delineation. These were not like pet store snakes for sale. They were like special religious snakes that he just kept around for like that purpose. And
Yeah. And then in his like religious sort of he keeps telling her how she needs to like find God and you know most of the stuff he says is very like Christian and biblical, but then he starts talking about you need to embrace the wind and embrace the dark, which I'm pretty sure is not the Bible.
yeah, that I think that was some bad, right? Yeah, so they have this ongoing conflict. The dad and Jennifer, the daughter, because he keeps saying, "Go back to God. You were great at this. It's your calling." And she's like, "No, no, it's evil. It's evil." And they hide why exactly it's so evil for a long time. And then they talk about it in science class because what's his face? The win, lose, or draw teacher.
I forget his
Bert
name.
Convey. His name is Jeff Reed. Yeah, Jeff Reed.
Reed. That's one of the creepy things. He's just like, "Oh, call me Jeff,
Yeah,
and I want you to see me as a friend."
Yeah, and like, oh yeah, the other psycho thing about Sandra is she's straight up like she's got a crush on Mr. Reed, and she's telling people that like she slept with him, which I think is the total lie.
I think they were implying that was not true.
Yeah. So, yeah, but like the thing, and then they have science class, and he's talking about conveniently snakes because it's that kind of movie. They're having Snake Day in class in the
yeah,
snake movie,
and he seems to like switch from talking to them from a scientific background to talking to them about a cultural background, like some sort of silent bell rang and science class ended and like world religion class began.
Yeah, it's like, okay, well this school sucks, I'm just gonna cover this for the you kids too. But yeah, and he's like, okay, you know, snakes are the most. He said a weird line this second. It's like the snakes are the most worshipped animal, or the most holy animal. I don't think that's
like
true.
by far, yes. That raised red flags in my head.
That's
too.
because he's like Hindus. Like I have no idea if this is accurate or not. And he's like Hindus worship snakes. These different cultures thought snakes were sacred. Okay, fine, that's probably true. But then he talks about people out in the hills think that snakes are holy as well, and that's where Jennifer came from, and she was one of these holy hillbilly snake people.
Yeah, when people in the movie start talking about snakes, that sort of puts her in a trance, the kind of trance that her dad would appreciate.
Oh yeah, and she kind of loses her accent during these trances and talks like in a very proper regular King James English, I guess. And
yes, very much so.
And like, it was a weird scene too because she's getting picked on right and left, poor kid. But she goes into this thing, it's like, no, snakes give you the power and blah blah blah, and like. Yeah, and Mr. Reed, Jeff, the teacher, is like, no, but like sometimes people try to handle these poisonous snakes, not just regular snakes, poisonous snakes in church, and people get bitten and killed. And she's like, that's because they don't have the power in them anymore.
Yeah, and then I don't know if like you mentioned the flashback, but what we like find out later. Is that she was doing her church snake handling, and the son of the preacher ended up getting bit and killed. And so she swore off any snake handling forever, and that's what her dad is trying to, like, bring her back to.
Yeah, and that's, like, Jennifer's kind of internal conflict. As much as you can have an internal conflict, and God, this movie was. I need to rewatch Carrie. This makes me really want to watch Carrie because this is like the poster for this movie basically said Carrie Light with snakes. That was basically its tagline.
And one of the taglines was, "This makes Carrie look like an angel." And
no,
we'll get to that.
No,
but the opposite is true.
Yeah.
And another funny thing about her dad was in the very beginning of the movie, one of the first scenes, um, Jennifer wakes up in the morning and goes to her dad who's already up and says pretty sternly, stops in her tracks and says, "I heard you last night."
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, and they never go back to
I guess
what that means.
it sounded like he was. I don't know. Was he listening to Christian radio? Was he whacking off? He was probably doing something with those snakes.
Yeah.
Now I know. He was probably trying to tame the snakes. Not that snake.
It was either the snakes or the script writers forgot to go back to that, or in reference to scene that would make sense later, but then got cut out of the movie or something.
Oh yeah, and I think I forgot about the science teacher. Another scene earlier on, he's got the female reproductive system, the little diagrams behind him. So I guess it's that day in class they moved from that human anatomy to snakes to wherever.
Do you remember your science, religions, and sex teacher?
I do. He was a great guy. But yeah, no. Then he's got this. It's end of class as well. I guess the pill solves all that. We don't have to worry about that anymore. Oh. The 70s.
Yeah.
Was sex ed really like that in the 70s? I didn't get that good of sex ed in the 90s in Texas, so.
I mean, I'm guessing by the 70s, a lot of classes and school districts were starting to do sex ed.
Yeah.
But I doubt it ended basically the way this did, was well, with the pill, you don't have to worry about getting pregnant, so fuck as much as you want, kids.
Reproductive system, just forget you have it. I
don't know. Yeah.
Oh, man, yeah.
So, moving to the middle part of the movie, another bullying thing that happened, which I actually thought was going to go another way, is it starts off. We haven't mentioned yet that Jennifer works in the school cafeteria, dishing out food and soup to these kids who actually live at the boarding school. And her boss is this sassy black lady who cuts the wheat from the chaff and tells it like it is.
Yeah, definitely my favorite character and probably the best actor in the movie. And this character is Martha. And sorry, go ahead. There was a prank.
And we looked up the lady who played Martha, and she's been in every she worked her whole life. She was in It's a Wonderful Life. She was in all these radio stuff.
Yeah, she was born in 1898 and died in 1980. So I needed to know her name. I'll look it up again. Lillian something. But anyway,
Thurman, maybe. Thurman, yeah, while you're looking that up, I'll so at one and another thing about Martha, excuse me, is that she is on Jennifer's side and one of the people that Jennifer can confide in. And at one point. Jennifer's oh, you go on. I'll catch up to you later. You go ahead and serve dinner and I'll catch up to you later, or words to that effect. And instead, what she unaccountably does is not go out for a smoke break or go to the bathroom, but instead she goes all the way to the locker room and decides to take a shower right then and there.
And in old 70s horror movie fashion, or I guess all horror movies, the locker room seems to be in the bowels of the school and the most deserted, warehouse creepy place. And so it's she's taking a shower and they do that. We talked about it's a total tease, which is very
there's
70s.
There's a little side boob, and I mentioned the 70s boys getting blue balled, but I guess what they could then do is then just go watch Carrie again, which was one of the first movies I saw that just had super nudity.
Well, there was a little bit of nudity, but
it was that fleeting. Not willing to commit kind of nudity.
But then they basically dox Jennifer with pretty much full frontal. I don't know how much you could see. It was
I don't remember either, but she takes a shower. She hears somebody is there. You hear girls giggling. you know it's Sandra and her flunkies.
And you said something about like what do they have magic powers now too? Because it's like they made the locker room into a fun house. Like they're
Yeah.
everywhere giggling
There
and
was like
like
3 minutes of Jennifer trying to follow the sound of the giggling unsuccessfully.
I like that these high school kids are not that stealthy. I'm sorry. Like
Yeah. So finally, she makes her way out to the swimming pool where the girls have put her clothes up high on like a
a
ceiling
pipe,
pipe
yeah.
and left like a ladder there for her to fetch it. And what I thought was going to happen was once she was up there, they would like push the ladder over or take it away or something, which is not what happened. But still, like if I was Jennifer, I would have waited like at least a good 20 minutes. Like she immediately starts climbing the ladder as soon
Oh,
as
I
she
know.
sees
You
it, which
know,
seems like a bad
bullies,
move.
ladder, like. But what happens is somebody pushes her, and she falls. Like, she's only wearing a towel, and she falls into the pool. And I think it's a dude takes pictures of her. It's probably the date and the
No,
rapist.
what? Well, we don't see who does it, but that
Yeah.
I saw that a little differently. Like once she got
Hmm.
to the top of the ladder, then they showed like a mysterious shadowy figure snapping pictures of her, and it was making that it was one of those old timey cameras with the big flash. It was full,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and like what I thought was happening is like that startled her, and that's what caused her to fall off the ladder. I didn't.
Yeah, I guess like the important point is like they got these pictures up the next day, like on the bulletin board. So it was like I was making jokes early in the movie that the bullies had to work harder in the 70s because they didn't have like doxing and Photoshop and Facebook and all this bullshit that kids have nowadays. But they did the same thing. They took a picture of Jennifer naked, managed to do that in this convoluted manner, and then put it up all over the school, which
Yeah,
is really shitty.
this
And
this was one of the things I was like laughing about in the movie because apparently, and this is not the only time where this seems to happen, but Sanders was apparently psychic
yeah,
because
yeah.
it was like it made it seem like a pretty spur of the moment decision for Jennifer to leave work to go
To
shower,
take a shower
and yet they
at
were
work.
ready with a ladder and a cameraman. Like, what if she decided not to shower
Oh, I know. Was
during
he
the
just
middle
like
of her
would they have
shift?
to like pay the guy to like stay there all night? Like I
Yeah,
don't
so
know.
she falls off the ladder into the pool. I should be clear, so
Yeah.
it's not like she gets like mangled or hurt in any way. Um. So what do you think is the next part that
I
we
guess
should?
like that's kind of starts to push her over the edge, but Jennifer's still, being like a good, dutiful kid. She doesn't want to go back to the snakes because she thinks that's evil. She just wants to go to school and make good grades and make friends and all that regular stuff. But then, what is the evil money shot of the movie? Like, the rape is worse. Like, a lot of these things are worse. But I was telling Kevin, like, I don't like it when cute little animals get murdered in movies and there's a cute little kitten in the pet store that Jennifer loves and you know that nothing good is going to come to this. And sure enough, Sandra murders it and leaves it in Jennifer's locker, and
Yeah,
that kind of
we don't see the cat getting killed.
no, and it's not too graphic.
Yeah, it's like hanging. It's like as if the cat got hung.
Yeah, it's still sad. And then like Sandra then says it was her cat and Jennifer murdered it, and why Miss Callie is believing this, I don't know.
Yeah,
But, yeah.
it makes really no sense. But like this is what Liz pointed while we were watching the movie. Pointed out was like the movie showed lots of like well not lots but 2 or 3 scenes of Jennifer loving this kitten, wanting to keep it, bonding with this kitten,
And
and
Sandra never
Sandra
saw
would
it.
have had no way of knowing that.
Yeah, I know. So Sandra has like evil psychic person powers.
Yeah, and like, oh, again, we're skipping around, but we didn't even mention the dance.
Oh God, the dance! That was so stupid. Oh yeah, the evil kids like Sandra and her flunkies hang out on this parking garage basically with a dance club inside. I don't know, it's really weird.
It was.
And then my other favorite character, there's these 2 guys who are like the guys in the security booth in the parking garage, and these kids come in there just to like run amok. These high school kids, and one guy's like, dude, what if something happens? Like, is there going to be any liability? And the other guy's like, that's not our problem.
Yeah.
It's like, if they get killed,
So yeah, he puts it more blunt than that. I
yeah,
don't remember
like,
his exact words.
if they get killed, so what? That's basically what he says. Yeah.
Yeah, and like we were trying to figure out like the theme of this dance party because it sort of looked half 20s and half space age. And then
Yeah,
like
like,
later in the movie there's like sort of another dance and they're dressed the exact same way, so that left it open, as Liz pointed out to me, this is just how they dress for dances in general.
yeah, it didn't look like regular 70s stuff, but like it just, and this goes back to like the John Travolta ripoff, because it was like this long dance scene and you'd see Sandra and her other bestie who's like, so cute brunette chick. I can't remember what her character's name was. She
I
was
don't
kind of the
even.
hot dumb one, like even dumber than everyone else. And like they're just like spinning around and dancing, and like it's like bad Saturday Night Fever. And then
Yeah.
later they rip off like the famous, one of the famous scenes in Grease, and like they mention John Travolta's a bad lay, so it's like they got a vendetta against John
Yeah, and
Travolta.
like this dance, the first dance scene really doesn't do anything to advance the plot except maybe to establish that Jane is kind of a loser.
Yeah,
But it's
yeah.
like 10 or 15 minutes of just dancing that's A, completely unnecessary, and B, like, I haven't seen Saturday Night Fever, but I have seen Grease, which also prominently features a high school dance. And these kids cannot dance nearly as
Oh
well
no,
as they
like
dance in Grease. It was so pointless,
it was
and it's like they were
stupid.
underlining how much worse they were than Carrie, Grease, and all these other movies that they were, ripping
Yeah,
off.
I don't know if they were like trying to say like, oh, like it was sort of to characterize the mean girls as fun-loving people. Yeah, and then they had Jane, who was kind of the that this guy wanted to borrow like $100 from her, and she kind of was like, like you might want to have sex with me. I'm like, good lay, but then she gives him like $100 anyway, and doesn't even make him fuck her. It's like it's pretty sad.
It was sad and weird.
It was just
It
weird. Like the whole
was
thing was like pointlessness, and I
I
still don't understand. It was like a parking garage where they held impromptu drag races, but it was also like a dance club. It was a very weird
yeah,
place.
I give that whole scene like 4 cold pissy C's.
Yes,
Uh,
this was the cold pissy sea of like,
of-
and these kids were rolling in the dough. Why were they hanging out in a parking garage?
yeah,
That's it was.
yeah, good question.
Uh,
Um, so yeah, and so this sort of brings us to like the climax of the
which
movie.
takes place in this
Yeah,
mystical
it takes
park
place at the very same uh,
parking garage slash
parking
dance club.
garage where the mean kids like go
Oh,
to.
they straight up kidnapped Jennifer.
Well, yeah, but the way they do it, I think,
Yeah,
is
that
worth
deserves a
mentioning.
mention. Yeah,
Like, I'm laughing just thinking about it.
I know.
They go to the pet store while she's away or at school or whatever, posing as her friends, and they tell her dad that they're her friends and they want to take her out for a surprise breakfast. And the way they do this is they conspire with the parents to leave the back door unlocked, so that they can rouse their friend and take him to breakfast. And her dad is listening to this and says to Sandra, "Well, you're not that mean girl that's causing her problems, are you?"
She's like, oh no, I'm one of the nice ones. And then so they come in and bust in the back door. It's like 20 kids in ski masks, colorful ski masks, like it's some kind of joke, not black ones, like blue, like red and green Christmas themed ski masks to break and enter. And her dad wakes up a little bit and like looks at the clock, and it's like freaking 3 a.m., which is too early for breakfast, even in my world. Where
Yeah,
and
and we love breakfast
yes, breakfast
anytime.
is the best. But yeah, so they fucking tie her up. They put tape over her mouth and they shove her in a trunk and drive. And they do this with like, then they need 6 cars to do this also, and about like ten kids at least, I would
Oh
say.
yeah, at least. And
Yeah.
like I was saying like during the movie, like that's such a bad idea because like cops notice murders,
Yeah,
and so
yeah.
like one of those kids would like crack under the pressure of being interrogated. When you're going to murder somebody, you want few accomplices. Uh, so they take her to the parking garage, at which point, like, half of them, at least, take off their ski masks. Like, why are you even wearing them to begin with?
Oh, it was so stupid. And yeah, and but then so here's it's like the last 10 minutes of the movie at this point. And so it's finally time for the horror snake money shots. And I was like, after they killed the kid, and I was like, okay, give this bitch Sandra a gory death. She really deserves it by this point. And I don't know. Do you think she was supposed to be a sympathetic character at all? Jeff is like, this person needs help. Like, uh, Jeff was the being the nice guy teacher, but no, Sandra was pretty much a straight up
Yeah,
dickhead
I don't see
protagonist.
anything remotely redeemable about Sandra. Another thing we
Yeah.
should mention about this kidnapping is another person in on it was Jane, who, despite being raped on um, Sandra's orders, is still trying to hang out with that larger clique until they get into the car to take Jane to the parking garage where they hang out. And Jane finds her backbone then and says, I don't want any part of
Oh
this.
yeah, but like I forgot about like Jane and Jennifer had like Jennifer goes and pays Jane a visit in her dorm room or whatever, and is like, okay, like Sandra's gone too far, and did she make you kill the cat? And Jane's like, no, she did it. I wouldn't do that. And Jane, basically, without saying rape, is like, she had me raped. I want to get revenge on these popular kids. And so then Jennifer's like, okay, but we got to make this for real. And she's doing her creepy, like, snake lady, glassy eyed look. And she's like, put your hand in my bag. And she has, like, this little purse, and there's a rattlesnake in there. And Jane's like, okay. He's
Yeah.
like, awkward kid.
Yes. So you take your spit shakes and your blood brothers and go shove it up your ass, because the way you really bond in high school is to stick your hand in a bag with a snake in it along with your friend.
Like, did Jane even know there was a snake in it? I don't know. She was like, all right,
I don't know.
crazy West
Yeah.
Virginia, what's that?
And I think, like, I could be misremembering, but I think, like, the last shot is sort of a faraway shot of both of them with their hand in the bag, sort of smiling at each other.
Yeah, they totally bond. It's like a BFF story by the end.
Yeah, and you mentioned this, but, like, I guess it bears, like, repeating. So this kitten that they kill, they put it in Jennifer's locker, and then somehow frame Jennifer for it. Like, that doesn't even make any sense.
I
But
know, I
they
know.
show Sandra bawling her eyes
Yeah.
out in the evil vice principal's office, Miss Cowley, and yeah, basically implied that Jennifer killed the kitten and put it in her own locker to, like, I guess, show Sandra so she would be upset by seeing it. And it really did not make any sense.
Yeah, like Sandra did not even have smart sociopath logic. She was
Yeah.
like a brilliant psychic sociopath, but she was like an autistic savant, so I don't know.
Right. So, so they finally take her to the parking garage, take her out of the trunk, um, and then
They're gonna have like a drag race like right round her to
well,
I don't
yeah,
know
that
what
was confusing too. But I think the idea was they were just gonna run her over.
Okay, yeah,
But
yeah.
first they wanted to, like, have her think about it and
Yeah.
menacingly just drive around her in really tight, like, formations and circles first. But of course that's a bad idea because it gives her the chance to summon the snakes.
Yes.
And
There's suddenly a lot of them, and it's like, it's not very good snake special effects, sadly.
it
They
was
did have some like big snake puppets, which I enjoyed.
yeah. So, um, yeah, like I said, we've seen 4 or 5 of these snake movies now, and
Yeah, this was like the worst
by
in
far the
terms
worst
of yeah.
in terms of, like,
Even
special
a
effects.
sci-fi Tara Reid snake movie was much more satisfying in
Yeah,
terms of
and
the
another movie we saw and we'll talk about after we rewatch was this movie from right around the same time called
which
that's
is a pretty yes.
SSSSSS. And even though it's at the same time, the special
Oh,
effects in that one were
much
way
better.
way
Yeah,
better.
they didn't even it's like they basically for the big climax they kind of put everything in soft focus slow motion.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what was great was, so it showed all these kids being attacked by snakes, but what the soft focus showed was for most of the kids, they were actually holding on to the snakes with both hands,
As they were
going,
vague.
ah! Yeah,
Ah! And I guess the snakes were supposed to be wrapped around their necks. You couldn't even
yeah,
see.
you
Like,
couldn't see, but it looked like they could easily just throw the snakes.
right.
Um, but then it kind of got entertaining because she could also summon out of thin air gigantic snakes.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Um,
And one of them, like, the rapist kid gets kind of like he gets bitten by one of the huge puppets type snakes and gets thrown off the parking garage to his death, which was satisfying. Like it has to be clarified later that he actually died because it was not very clear. And yeah, is there anything else worth note about it?
well, Sandra starts to almost get away.
Yeah,
She drives away in a car, and then in her back seat, like a snake appears with a head like 3 or 4 times bigger than hers, and I think there's actually a couple scenes where giant snakes, just like puppet like, sort of descended on the head of a character.
Yeah,
And in
yeah.
Sandra's case, instead of like just biting it off, it makes her get into a fiery wreck.
Yeah, and
Uh,
then the two parking garage guys who have been nowhere to be seen while any of this is going on, are just like walking by on the sidewalk, and they're like, "Whoa, this fiery car wreck is going on." Oh, that was the best part of the movie.
yeah, and so um, then and they did not show, like, Jane was there for all of this, but and it's definitely possible I could have just missed
No, I
it.
think they showed her kind of laughing, like, "Ha ha, these assholes
Okay,
are finally getting it." But it was all like
okay,
clear. It was not clear focus, blurry focus, and with everything going on.
yeah. So the last scene of the movie, um, uh, Jennifer is in Miss Callie's office, and Miss Callie is just ripping her a new one, saying, "I know you had something to do with Sandra's death, and these other kids are in the
With
hospital.
a
They can't
respiratory
breathe."
infection,
Yeah.
serious respiratory
So,
infection.
like, this movie says it makes Carrie look like an angel, and
She didn't even
she didn't even
kill.
kill
She
most of
killed
the
two
kids.
people. She killed the two
Yeah.
worst characters who really had it coming.
Carrie killed a whole gym full of
Yeah.
um, so yeah, and then Miss Cowley pretty much says, I'm gonna make sure that one way or another you're kicked out of this place. Nobody likes you. Everyone loathes you." Like,
Yes,
she's
yes. Like, and
really
no,
changed.
yeah, and she's really wanting to, like, why were you even with them? Why were they hanging out with you? And God, and then
And again, like, swigging and taking pills.
yes, right in front of Jennifer. Like, she just makes no pretense of looking good. And so then Jennifer and Jane are outside and chatting and whatever, and a snake is summoned to do away with Miss Callie. I guess that's off camera, but
Yeah, and
it's just a small snake. It's
yeah,
nothing.
yeah, and like Jennifer tells Jane, like, "Oh, I don't think we'll have to worry about her anymore," and they smile and walk away. That's the movie.
Oh yeah, and like the end credits are like shots of like the church revival, like from Jennifer's youth, with these like
Oh
goofy,
yeah,
weird
like
looking.
there's not too many reasons to watch this movie, but one of them is the flashbacks of young Jennifer that Liz mentioned, because like she's going to the front of this pulpit, and all these adults are like clapping, cheering her on, and there's this one like super crazy-eyed one that we both really liked, and then they show him again during the end credits, like up close.
Oh, it's awesome. He's probably uncredited, but Martha, my favorite character, was played by Lillian Randolph, is the actress's name. And you can look up all these on IMDb if you're so inclined. But yeah, and like the other note, like Martha's best line was like, she was again telling it like it is, and at one point Jennifer's like kind of confiding, and she's like, "No, Jane saved my life, because like Sandra tried to drown me in the pool," and Martha's like, "Ah, Jane, huh? That fat one. I don't know about her."
Yeah.
So she's like nice, but also sort of awful. And like she's sort of like I just take a gun to those rich girls or something like that. And then like the parking lots attendants are like nihilistic. So I again, this movie is trying to say something about adults not quite like being there the right way for the kids, I think, but it's not at all nuanced
Yeah,
enough to.
they just needed to. I feel like this almost could have been as good as like a two-star movie if
Yeah,
they had dialed Sandra and especially Miss Callie way the fuck down.
yeah,
Like there
yeah.
has never been a school administrator alive as openly evil as Miss Callie, and I'm not even in movies like Animal House and ridiculous movies like Revenge of the Nerds. It was
Yeah, it's pretty over the top
yeah.
villainy. I mean, they were not bad villains for over the top villains. I don't know if like I've got a soft spot for B movies or something, but yeah, like there were certain things in this that could have made it less bad, and they weren't
Well,
there.
I feel like again, what made what kept this was a terrible movie.
Yes.
What kept it from being completely terrible, cover your eyes, we can't even recommend this ironically. Well, I guess no matter what, we could recommend it ironically. It was good fun to make fun of. But Jane was really the wild card. I really mean it when I say she was sort of more nuanced. I almost want to like peel her out of this movie and put her in a better one.
Yeah, yeah, she was a pretty interesting character. Like Jennifer was just straight up. Yeah, she was not very complex. Sandra was not complex. Most of these characters were not very complex.
Yeah, and like during that interminable dance scene, like one thing that they kept showing before she gave what's his name $100 was her like
Sitting
sitting
there
alone at a
awkwardly.
table and sort of doing that little smile, like, "Hey, I can have fun even though I'm by myself," right? Kind of look on her face, and I kind of felt like, we've
We've
people
all
have been
been there.
there,
Yeah, I
yeah.
kind of wanted to play Here from 2015
Yeah.
over the loudspeakers for. It was that was such a weird scene. It was bad, but yeah, it was like uh
Yeah, well, I
how
mean,
do we character develop? I don't
right.
know.
So obviously we're going for bad snake movies. I don't know if a good snake movie exists, but if it does, that's not what we're like trying to
Yeah, we got this because
watch.
we like accidentally watched Anaconda, which is a whole different. It's magical,
Yeah,
but
we'll
it's
cover that
yeah,
in a future episode.
yes.
But as far as the ones we've seen or not, this
Wasn't the worst. It was
wasn't the
not the
worst. It
worst.
wasn't nearly the campy fun that most of the others we saw were, just because the special effects are so lacking. Um, and
I don't know, like if you had to give it a 1 to 5 shedded giant shedded snake skins,
um,
I'd give it like 2, I guess.
okay, if we're talking like you know, if five snake skins is like the most campiest, awful, they know they're bad, Sharknado-y fun,
Yeah,
then this one is if that's five snake skins.
yeah, it
This
sounds fun.
one's about 1.5.
Yeah, that one and a
I
half,
mean,
two area.
if you're looking for a bad movie, and I often am, just for this very reason, just because they're silly, like this one will do the trick, but it's not as satisfying as other bad movies
No,
to
it
watch
doesn't
when you
give
want to
you
watch
that.
them.
Yeah, that does. It lacks a certain oomph of badness. It's
Yes, yeah.
and
Um,
they were trying to ride off Carrie and some other movies of the time,
yeah,
and it's very obvious.
exactly. If you ever say to yourself, I kind of want to watch Carrie, but I don't want it to be nearly as good. But
And
I
I
still want to be the same base movie.
and I
Then
wanted
yes, I give this five snakeskins for that.
yes, yes, and you want your Carrie ripoff to have snakes, but not too many snakes.
Yeah, this has
That
far
not
fewer
not enough
snakes
snakes.
than any snake movie we've seen so far. And yeah, if maybe you were actually a teenager in the 70s, maybe you were a guy, and maybe you were jealous about how much all the classmates you had crushes on just loved John Travolta. well, then you're also in the target audience of this movie
Oh
because
yeah,
they
it's
have no use for John Travolta here.
oh I know. And Sandra was so psychic. I mean, how could they not? I almost expected her to look into the future and make fun of him for Battlefield Earth somehow. Or like some of his other projects, like Michael wasn't very good. He's no angel. I don't know, but anyway, I think those are all my thoughts on Jennifer from 1978.
Yeah, I think I'm done too. I'm sure as soon as we click stop, we're gonna be like, "Oh, we forgot to talk about X, Y, Z," but
Right.
whatever. So yeah, this was super fun.
Hope
I hope
somebody
more than
listens to
two
this.
people listen to
Yeah,
this.
we'll see.
But
So farewell for now from the cold pissy sea. Stay warm out there.
yes.